Hello everyone, we're back here. We are continuing here on chapter 2 for Reincarnation and the Law of Karma. And before I start talking about this book, me and Donald decided to start going through CNA. Possibly when we're done with CNA, it's going to start this month at the City College here in Miles City. Once we're done with that, we're possibly going to get into nursing. We thought between nursing and counseling, but I've done CNA work before, and I've been through nursing school before, so I thought about introducing Donald into the nursing field, because we're going to be healers, so I'm thinking about possibly doing, getting back into nursing, after everything that's been happening, so it gave me an eye-opening, gave me an awakening to possibly just become a nurse, or maybe even get back into corrections, or, become like a correctional nurse, because I have a degree in bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
Yes.
So does Donald. So we might just become maybe later on become a nurse in that field too.
Yes.
So you want to start first?
Where? Alright, so let's go and continue to chapter 3. Chapter 3.
Oh.
Or chapter 2. I don't know what happened with Fly. Okay, chapter 2. The Egyptians, Chaldeans, Greeks, etc. After considering the existence of doctrines of reincarnations among the primitive peoples and its traditional existence among the vanished peoples of the past, we found ourselves irresistible, bound towards that ancient land of mysteries, the home of the mystics, of the alchemists of the past, the land of Isis, the home of the builders of the pyramids, the people of the Sphinx. What is that? Sphinx.
Like Egyptian Sphinx.
Really? Oh, Sphinx, that? Oh. Some Egyptians working here. But whatever these people were, the directions descendants of the peoples destroyed Atlantis, the homes of the ancient wisdoms, or whether they were a new people who had rediscovered the old doctrines. The fact remains that when tracing back any old occult or mystic doctrines, we find ourselves gradually led towards the lands of the Sphinx as the source of that hidden truth. The Sphinx is that emblem of the wonderful race. Its sealed lips seems to invite the ultimate questions, and one feels that there is meaning to a whispered answers waffles from those tightly closed lips through the ear that is prepared to hear and receive it. And so, in our search for the origins of the reincarnations, we find ourselves once more confronting the Egyptian Sphinx, as we have done so often before in our search after truth. Notwithstanding its obvious prehistoric origins, many have claimed that the metapsychosis has its birthplace in old Egypt. On the banks of the Nile, Indians dispute this claim, holding that the games not in the Nile gave birth to the doctrines. Be that as it may, we shall treat Egyptians conceptions at this time. Among the ancient land holding the doctrines for the Indians, it is not a thing for our caste, but a doctrine which is a full flower at the present time, in which the flowers is sending forth its subtle odor to all parts of the civilized world. And so we shall defer our considerations of India's teachings until we research the present stage of the history of reincarnations. Herodotus, many centuries ago, said Egyptians that the Egyptians are the first who propounded the theories of that the human soul is imperishable, and that where the body of anyone dies, it enters into someone's other's bodies that be ready to receive it. And that when it has gone that round of all created forms on land and water and in air, then it once more enters the human bodies born for it. And that this cycles of existence for the souls takes place in 3,000 years. The doctrines of reincarnation is discernible, though hidden away amidst the mass of esoteric doctrines back to the exoteric teachings of the Egyptians, which latter were expounded to the common people. While the truth was reserved for the few who were ready for it, the inner circles of the Egyptians mystics believes that in and understand the inner truths of reincarnations, and although regarded the esoteric teachings carefully still fragments fell from the table and were greedily taken up by the masses, as we may see by the examinations of the scrapes of historical records which have been preserved, graven in the stones and imprinted in the bricks. Not only did these peoples accept the doctrines of reincarnations, but Egypt was really the home of the highest occult teaching. The doctrines of the teachings regarding several sects or bodies of man, which were taught by occultists of all times and races, we are believed to have been fully taught in their original varieties and on the banks of the Niles and in the shadow of the pyramids. Yes, even before the days of the pyramids, there's 40 centuries of the history saw many modifications of the philosophical and religious belief, but the fundamental doctrines and of reincarnations was held to during the entire period of history in ancient Egypt, and was not discarded until the descendants of the once mighty race were overwhelmed by stronger races, whose religions and beliefs superseded the vestige of the ancient doctrines. The Egyptians held that there was Ka.
Yes, I want Ka.
The divine spirits and man, Abe, the intellect or will, Haitu, the vitality, Tet, the astral's body, Shahu, the etheric doubles, and the Sa, the physical body. Some authorities forming a slightly different arrangement, which corresponds to the various bodies of the man as recognized by occultists today. The ancient Chaldeans also taught the doctrines of rebirth, the body of person, yes, and Chaldeans mystics and occultists, known as the Magi, who were masters of the hidden wisdoms, held to the doctrines of reincarnations as one of their fundamental truths. In fact, they managed to educate the masses of their people to a much higher point than the masses of the Egyptians, and escaping the idolatrous tendencies of the Egyptian populace. They manifested a very high degrees of pure philosophical, occult, and religions knowledge.
taught that the soul was a complex being, and that certain portions of it perished, that were certain parts of it survived and passed on through a series of earth and other world existence until they finally found it attained such as degree of purity, and that it relieved of the necessity for further incarnation, that the thenceforth dwelt in the region of ineffable bliss, the region of eternal light, of light eternal. The teaching also have held just before entering the state of bliss, the soul was able to review the previous incarnation, seeing that distantly that the connection between them, and thus gaining a store of wisdom with of experience, which is what would be in the future work of help for future races that would appear on the face of the earth. The Magi taught that the living things and all things living of existence of organic and organic were the very manifestation of the one life, and being therefore the highest knowledge implied a feeling of conscious brotherhood and relationship toward with it all. Even among the Chinese there was esoteric teaching concerning reincarnation. Beneath the outer teaching of the ages past, it may be discerned in the teachings of early philosophers and seers of the race, notably the work of Lao Tzu, of the great Chinese sage and teacher Lao Tzu, whose great work of the Tao Te Ching is a classic thought. Reincarnation to his inner circle of students and adherents, at least so many authorities claim he taught that the existed fundamental principle called Tao, which is held that it is identical to the primordial reason, the manifestation of the way T, of the creative activity of the universe. From the union and action of Tao of the T, perceive the universe, including the human soul, as taught was composed of several parts of, among being the huan, or spiritual principle of Phi, or semi-material vital principle, which together emanate the body, Tao Zi Li Ti. To be ignorant that the true self is immortal, and to remain grievous, a state of terror, of experience many calamities, by reason, and therefore know that the part of the man is subsoul, the spiritual, which is heaven-bound portion of the himself, which has to do with the flesh, bones, and body, and belongs to the earth, earthly to the earth, heavenly to the heaven. Okay. Such is the law. Some have held to allow CT Tao after death, but the writings of his early followers to be seen as really taught that the Huan persisted in its individual existence throughout the repeated incarnations, returning to the Tao. Only when his completely surrounds the experienced life or existence of the CT Tao, it is said that the vital essence of disappeared after death together with the body, bones, and flesh, but the soul is knowing the principle of the self, is reserved and does not perish. There is no immediate absorption of the individuality into the Tao. Individuality persists to manifest itself according to its law, and Chuang Si Ti Tao, death is but commencement of the new life. It was taught by the early Taoists that the deeds good and evil present life would bear fruit in the future existence of addition to the orthodox heavens and hells, which is Chinese belief that which is great variety adapted to the requirements of the various grades of the saints and sinners, the minute of the details which he places and describes attention to the minor details, and particular to the Chinese mind. The teaching of the later date that the soul of the ancestor abided to the hall of the ancestors were a corruption of the ancient teaching. Other Chinese teachers taught that the soul consists of three parts. The first being Kuei, which has the seat of the belly, which is perished of the body. The second being the Ling, which is the seat of the heart, the chest, and which persists at the same time after death, but would eventually disintegrate in the third, or Huan, which is specific to the brain and which survived the disintegration of companions and then passed on to other existences.
As strange as it may appear to many readers unfamiliar with the subject, the ancient Druids, particularly those dwelling in the ancient Gaul, were familiar with the doctrines of reincarnation and beliefs in its tenets. These peoples generally regarded as ancient barbarians, really possessed by philosophies of the high order, which merged into the mystic forms of religions. Meeting the Romans upon their conquest of the Gallia were surprised at the degree of the characters of the philosophical knowledge possessed by the Druids, and many of them have left written records of the saints, notably in the case of the Aristotles, Caesars, Locus, and Valerius Maximus. The Christian teachers who succeeded them also bore witnesses to these facts as may be seen by references to the works of Saint Clement, Saint Cyril, and others of the earlier Christian fathers. These ancient barbarians entertained some of the highest spiritual conceptions of these and importabilities of the minds and the souls. Ray Newitt has written of them, basing his statements upon a careful study of the ancient beliefs on this race. If Judea represents in the world with the tendencies of its own, the idea of the personal and absolute God, if Greece and Rome represents the idea of societies, God represents just particularly the idea of immortalities. Nothing characterized it better, as all the ancients admit. The mysterious folks was looked upon the privileged possessors of the secrets of death and its unwavering instinctive faith in existence of life never ceased to be a cause of astonishment and sometimes of fear in the eyes of the heathen. The Gauls possessed an occult philosophies and a mystics religions, which were destroyed by the influences of the Roman conquest. The philosophy of the Druids bore a remarkable resemblance to the inner doctrines of the Egyptians, and their successors of the Grecians mystics trace of Hermeticism and Philitoranism are clearly discernible, although the connecting link of the bound them together has been lost into history. Legend among the Druids connected their order with the ancient Aryan creeds and teachings. There seems to be had a very close connections between these priests and those of the ancient Greeks for their tales of offering the incense examples in Greece for the priests of Gaul. And it is also related that on the islands of the Delphos there was once a Druidic stone and the shape of the monuments believed to have been erected over the remains of Druid priestesses. Herodotus and others speaks the secret alliance between the priests of Greece and those other Druids. Some of the ancient legends hold the Pythagoras was the instructors of the Druidic priests, and that Pythagoras himself was in close communications with the Brahmins of India and the Hermetists of Egypt. Other legends have it in the Druids received their first instructions from Zomalis, who had been slaves and students of Pythagoras. At any rate, of the correspondence between the two schools of the philosophies is remarkable. Much of the Druidics teachings has been lost, and it is difficult to piece together its fragments. But enough is known to indicate that above mentioned relationships to the Pythagorean school, and of the firm's whole of the doctrines incarnations upon the Druids. The preserved fragments show that the Druids taught that there was an element of immaterial, spiritual parts called awen, which proceeded from the universal spiritual principles of life. They taught that this awen had animated the lower forms of life, minerals, vegetables, and animals, before incarnating as men. In those conditions, it was entangled and imprisoned at the states of the abysmal circling called Anavul, from which it finally escapes and entered into the circles of freedoms called Abrid, or humans, incarnations, and beyond. This state of the Abrids includes life of the various human races of this and others planet, until families there is further liberations of the Awen, which then passes on to the circles of bliss, or Gowande, where it abides for aeons in a state of statics being. But beyond even the transcendent states, there is another which is called the circles of the infinite, or quagant, which is the indicated which the unions of the gods in the Greek Persians and Greek mystics, or the Nirvana, the Hindus. Rather an evidence from the philosophies of the barbarians, it is not. Particularly when contrasted with the crude methodologies of the Roman conquerors, the goals were so evident of the particle spaces of the occultisms that they gave every condemned criminals to respite of 5 years after sentence of death before executions, in order for the mind that he might prepare himself for future states by meditations, instructors, and others preparations, and also to prevent unsharing and unprepared and guilty soul into the plane of the departed, the advantages of which plan to apparent to every student in occultism to accept the teachings regarding the astral plans. The readers will understand, of course, that the degrees of the advancement in spirituals and philosophical matters evidenced by the Gauls was due not to the facts of these peoples were generally so far evident beyond their neighborhood, but rather to the facts that they had been instructed by the Druids priests among them. Traditions has it that the original Druidic priests came to Gauls and other countries from some far off lands, probably from Egypt or Greece. We have spoken to the connections between their teachings and that the Pythagoreans, and there was undoubtedly a strong bond of relationships between these priests and the occultists. of others' lands. The Druidic priests were versed in astronomy and astrology, and the planets had an important part in the teachings. A portion of their rituals is said to have correspondences with the early Jewish rites and worships. Their favorite symbols, the mestilito, were used to indicate rebirth, and mestilito being the new life springing forth from the old one, typified before the oak. The Druids travels into ancient Britons and Ireland, and many traces of their religious rites may still be found there, not only in the shapes of the stones, places of worships, but also in many curious local customs among the peasantry. Many a bit of English folks lore, many an old and odd Irish fancies concerning fairies and the like symbols and good luck, banshees, and the little folks. Some came honestly to these people from the day of the Druids, and from the same sources came the many whispers tales among both races regarding the birth of children who seemed to have remembrance of the former's lives on earth, which memories faded away as they grew older. Among these people, there is always an undercurrent of mystics' ideas about souls coming back, and some mysteries was not fully understood. It is the inheritance from the Druids.
You understand about this now?
Yes.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everyone, that is the end of chapter 2. Next time we'll start on chapter 3, the Romans and Greeks, tomorrow. All this is talking about the reincarnations, but we're going into spiritualism right now that's dealing with the reincarnations of different culture and beliefs.
It first reincarnated from Egyptians, and then it got discovered into India, and then passed on to the Hindu. So they believe that with these cycles of reincarnations, there was like we can cycle through animal rebirth. So you have to go through like reincarnate, become like an animal first, and then reincarnate into humans, and then reincarnations into another soul, becoming another human.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and before ending this video, I want to talk a little about we were talking about last time about spiritual growth, the spiritual awakening, and everything. During while spiritual awakening is happening, always keep yourself healthy, eat healthy salads and stuff, and exercise and eat healthy. Drink some matcha green tea. It'll help support your intuition. Drink some teas. It helps help your spiritual growth. Always keep in mind your body is your mind and your soul. Always treat your body with respect.
You gotta love yourself.
You gotta love yourself. Feed your body with nourishments. Like, if nature didn't make it, don't take it, they say. So eat like salads and fruits. Eat like salads, fruits, like fruits and vegetables. And instead of drinking soda, drink synergy drinks.
Is there's
less sugar and good for probiotics for your stomach.
some of the fruits that you might consume are the low sugars and it has a lot of fibers.
Like if you staying away from sugar, like eat green apples instead of red apples. It's more sour, less sweet. Strawberries is low on sugar. Blueberries, that's what we usually eat, and grapefruits.
Blueberries is very good for your body. It has a lot of fiber, so
Good
your
for
body needs
cancer.
a lot of fibers to lose weight, and it also has a lot of let's see, antibiotics in there that are kill cells, cancers, and greens, vegetables, try to get organic instead of pesticides. I know that there's a lot of vegetables out there.
If there is, add baking soda to it.
Yes, that are from your local stores. Has a lot like pesticides in there, or if you go to your local store, grocery stores that are organic.
Sometimes you can't even believe
Yes,
what they say
or
is
sometimes you
organic.
can't even believe in it.
Add baking soda regardless.
Yes, so just add in baking soda. Baking soda, leave it there for 10 minutes, and I guess it's supposed to remove all those chemicals or pesticides. So that's also to remove all those toxic pesticides. Clean off your vegetables before you eat them. Because there's a lot of vegetables and fruits are being touched by a lot of people out there, so we don't know where they come from, so we have to wash and clean very clean until we consume into our body and keep us healthy. Alright? So, you got anything to say?
It should be it.
Alright, so we're going to wrap this up. And thank you so much for tuning in to Michael's channel. Don't forget to like the thumbs up.
And subscribe. To all subscribers out there, I would like if people subscribe for us. And we'll engage with more material soon. Pretty soon we're going to start school in nursing for those people out there interested in nursing and CNA. We're going to get some coursework done here. And
life is hard, life is to move on, but hey, we gotta stick to it and move on.
Yep, the journey is when you meet people, they meet you to change and to grow up, not always there to be with you. Just takes life how it is, regardless of how tough the situation is. Or sometimes when you meet people, sometimes they encourage you to grow as a better person. They're not always meant there to stay with you. So just stay positive.
Yes, people are not bad person, so it's a blessing that we come across a lot of people and we learn from them. So this is how life teaches things. So we learn from new people, we gain new knowledge, and to move on. Alright?
Yes, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.